Your daily fix of women's mixed martial arts from the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. Be in the loop, because Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your fix on women's MMA. We've got you covered on Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Arnel De Leon, and hopefully your day is going well, wherever you are, whoever you are. Hopefully we're all persevering through the already tough year that is 2021. Yes, although it is only February, things are getting a wee bit hectic. Here's a piece of advice: try to avoid, the bad areas of Twitter. Alright then, there's a lot of areas in Twitter. There's some personalities out there that you shouldn't want to follow. And speaking of which, I gotta bring this up. So Stephen A. Smith, he was talking about so him and ESPN, they're promoting the upcoming UFC 258 events. They're promoting events that are happening for the UFC. And then one of the lines that Stephen A. Smith said that went around through Twitter was a line where Stephen A. Smith said that he's uncomfortable watching women fights. And then a lot of people took it as in, oh, what the heck, man? Are you sexist? How can you say women can't fight? What the heck? So I watched the entire thing. Stephen A. Smith, he just says that he's uncomfortable seeing women fight. That's him. All right. I know some people in my personal life who cannot watch women's mixed martial arts. Like some of my guy friends, they believe that, some of the women fights are just not up to par with the male fights. Like my parents, or people who are older than me, a lot older than me, who are like in their 50s and 60s, are like, I don't want to see women fight because they shouldn't be fighting at all. But that's their viewpoint. But the Stephen A. Smith saying he doesn't like seeing women fight ever, this led to like fighters like Angela Hill going out there and just completely ribbing on the guy. So if you are a follower of Angela Hill, and I recommend you do, Angela Hill is incredibly funny and fun to watch on Twitter or on Instagram. So she posted her doing a reenactment of Stephen A. Smith's boxing training. If you don't know what it is, it's that weird training video that went around. You can see it on YouTube or any of your social media. Just type in Stephen A. Smith boxing, and you're gonna see this like minute and 15-second clip video of Stephen A. Smith in this poorly lit room, and he's just throwing out the worst punches I've ever seen. And this is coming from a guy who actually did boxing training growing up. And even then, kids who are... Okay, I've seen 9-year-old kids throw out better punches than this guy. Alright then, I've seen 9-year-old, 10-year-old kids in boxing gyms do a lot more better punches. And me starting off as a complete rookie, like coming in day one, doing some boxing sparring, hitting the bags, and doing some like drills, my punches look a lot more better than Stephen A. Smith. That's not me being, oh man, I know how to box. This guy doesn't know how to box. No, Stephen A. Smith's boxing is just out there. It's like completely alien to anybody who watches combat sports or has participated in any combat sports. And so this leads to Angela Hill. She immediately flipped on Twitter. She was like, "How could you say that? What the heck? I can beat you up." And then she then did a parody with her and her coach, her trainer, and and then the coach was talking to Angela Hill, and Angela Hill says, all right, Angela Hill, this is how you do real boxing. First, you gotta go and swing your arms, but you're not extending your shoulder, because if you've seen how Stephen A. Smith punches, his elbow does not bend. He's punching you with the shoulder moving towards the entire direction, which makes sense. But like he's doing it so stiff, his legs are already off. Like it's just a weird. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in terms of boxing. And so Angela Hill, her trainer, comes in and is like, "All right, Angela, we're gonna do real boxing training now, okay? So I want you to do what Stephen A. Smith did: punch with no energy, with your shoulder doing all the work, with your elbows not being bent, and you with your chin tucked down for some weird reason. And then I want you to go aim low onto my thigh for a punch, but do it in a downward trajectory." So you can see Angela Hill. She's like smirking and laughing at this. She's like, "Okay, we want me to do that?" So she does a perfect reenactment of Stephen A. Smith's awful punching. And then you hear Angela Hill's trainer being like, okay, now we're going to do Stephen A's boxing, real boxing, and then you have to go and do that bad boxing. Alright, do some bad boxing. And then we see like 15 straight seconds of Angela Hill pulling out these perfect boxing strikes on the pads. It looks good. She's fast. It's crisp. It's clean. The form looks perfect. And then the coach says, no. We don't want bad boxing. We want good boxing. Punch me down there. And Hill does the perfect reenactments. She's even like going all full stiff, where like her body limps as she goes for a strike, kind of like how Stephen A. Smith does it. And so that's something that's really popped around my feed. So Stephen A. Smith, he's gonna cover the upcoming UFC 258 card. He's gonna cover it. And you know what's in the co-main event? Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber. I expect good things coming off. My pick there is Macy Barber. I'm picking Macy Barber, but you really can't. I say 170. I didn't look at the Vegas odds yet for the fighters, but I'll say Macy Barber probably has 175, 145 in the betting odds. Like, people in general consensus believe that Macy Barber should win this fight. But there are moments where, like, Roxanne Modafferi versus Macy Barber, where we're like, okay, Macy Barber should defeat Roxanne Modafferi. Alright then, she didn't. Not only that, she got schooled by Roxanne Modafferi. I don't know if she really has good. And here's Macy Barber. She's only still in her mid-20s. She's going through her mid-20s. She's still incredibly young. She's very raw. She's very green still in some areas of the game. She's only lost one fight in her MMA career, compared to Alexa Grasso's, who's only lost 3 fights. So like 1-3 in terms of loss. But Alexa Grasso has a lot more experience than Macy Barber. So, fight theory says Macy Barber should win this fight off the basis that her striking and grappling is, in theory, better than Alexa Grasso if you base on both of their performances. They're both of their past 5 performances. But you can count out Alexa Grasso. You just really can't, though. So, that's the co-main event. Because Stephen A. Smith, and every single time this man appears on my screen, whether it be a laptop, my phone, or my regular TV screen here, he's always coming across as controversial for the sake of controversy. And I'll tell you right now, I get it. I really do. Now, I don't believe Stephen A. Smith when he said, I am not comfortable with women going out there fighting. I'm pretty sure he's not really saying, I don't like to see women compete in martial arts. It's more of a sense of he himself has just been desensitized. And here's the thing. With Stephen A. Smith, he doesn't know that much boxing also. He really doesn't. Like Max Kellerman, he has to be one of the best actors out there on ESPN. In that Max Kellerman, he is incredibly smart. He's incredibly intelligent. He's very insightful. Go look at everything Max Kellerman prior to him joining ESPN on his perception, his viewpoints on boxing. And then go to him right now with First Take with him and Stephen A. Smith. Like, Max Kellerman is one of the best actors out there in the world. And that he knows how to genuinely come across as a person who doesn't know what they're talking about when they actually do. Meanwhile, I got Stephen A. Smith, who obviously doesn't know what he's talking about, who's trying really hard to be like, Khabib, it's obvious that's box office attraction between you and Conor. What do you have to say for that? And Khabib just like shuts him down completely. And when it gets to Macy Barber versus Alexa Grasso, I want to see what Stephen A. Smith is going to say about this. Also, while I'm at it, I'd have to say this. Why are there no female commentators or any female personalities out there in the UFC who are doing commentary or doing analysis? Other than like Michelle Waterson and Miesha Tate. We got those 2 women. Miesha Tate right now, she's busy. She's busy being the vice president of one championship. Michelle Waterson, she appears off and on, but I would like to see, here's what I would like to see. I'd like to see when there is a women's fight with such a commentary team. I like that. Like Dominic Cruz and Darren Cormier, they're great commentators, but I would like it for women's bouts that we replace the commentators, and we get some female fighters out there. It'd be really interesting to see. I think a lot of fighters would be up for that, considering that, according to Daniel Cormier, you get paid really well. You get paid really well to do commentary, to do analysis stuff. Even fighters like Michael Chiesa and Dan Hardy, who, if you told them that they would be fight commentators or analysts like several years ago, they would tell you, oh man, that's awful. I would never do that. I don't feel comfortable ever doing that. And look at them now. If Dan Hardy and Michael Chiesa and Paul Felder, Dominic Cruz-Cormier, if all of them can do it, who's to say that other one fighters can't do it? Like, I would love to hear like Joanna Jacek's viewpoints on fighting. I'd like to see someone like Lauren Murphy or Johan Calderwood's viewpoints on fighting. Heck, even somebody like Rose Namajunas. Oh my goodness. I would love to hear her viewpoints on boxing, on the other women who compete in the strawweight division. What's her viewpoint on an possible atomweight division? I'd like to see a lot more women go and be more participating of women's mixed martial arts in terms of commentary and analysis. Now, I think I've seen Kayla Harrison do some commentary. I do know in Bellator, here's a really cool thing about Bellator, they have female commentators. They got female commentators, they got female analysts. There seems to be a lot more of a focus in trying to present the women's MMA in Bellator to be more entertaining, to be more intriguing. There seems to be a lot more depth in terms of the presentation aspect of women's mixed martial arts in Bellator. Now, even though the UFC's women's divisions, specifically the strawweight division, even though that division is stacked, and it's objectively, you could argue, to be one of the top 3 best divisions right now in the UFC, we're getting very little promotion, which is strange. Zhang Weili had one of the best fights of the night. Carla Esparza, I'm pretty darn sure if given the opportunity, she would go and be like, heck yeah, I would definitely do commentary. I think I've seen Carla Esparza when she does interviews and when she does talk, she's actually really good in speaking. She really is. So I say, Dana White, let's go have a female commentary team for the women's fights. I think that'll be very interesting. Let's have somebody other than Miesha Tate, who's gone, and Michelle Watterson, who sometimes appears, to go and do some commentary. I would love to go see that. Kaylin Chookagian, she's considering retirement in the next 2 years. Now, I'm not sure whether she actually will retire, but she's already having talks and discussions about retiring and settling down. Well, guess what? If she wants to settle down, she's been a top 5 fighter for the better part of 3 years in the women's fight division. I would love to hear her insights. And she's a really eloquent speaker in all the press interviews she's done. So why not have Kaylin Chookagian do interviews and do talking points for ESPN or for UFC Fight Night events? That'd be interesting. And so speaking of top fighters right now in the women's fight division, we have Macy Barber. So Macy Barber, she's going to be fighting Alexa Grasso, and this is coming in from BJPen.com of what Macy Barber's expectations are. And it's expected she will go dominate her opponent, which is something that can definitely happen. But I always second guess my predictions most of the time now, because there have been some fights where I'm like, okay, one thing should happen, but it doesn't turn out like that. And ever since her loss to Roxanne Modafferi, I am always second guessing myself with her. So this article is being written in by Cole Shelton. So Macy Barber plans to remind the world just how good she is. In the co-main event of UFC 258, Barber is set to return after her first career loss and a torn ACL to battle Alexa Grasso. Red flags there. It's a very intriguing matchup, but many fans are surprised this is the fight because both Barber and Grasso are 2 of the up-and-coming prospects. I'm excited. It has been a very long journey back. She said to Just Scrap Radio on BJPen.com. There have been a lot of ups and downs with recovery. I switched camps. It has been a lot of back and forth, but I'm ready and never have felt so much better. I'm excited. I think a lot of people are surprised because she is tough and we both are up-and-comers. I'm not surprised because I've never turned out a fight, because if they offer me someone, the UFC has a plan. You have to stick with the plan and go with it. She has a lot of followers behind her, and I have a lot of followers behind me. Entering the fight, Macy Barber is the betting underdog, but isn't paying much attention to it. So Macy Barber is not going in as a favorite. But if she does win, though, she expected to dominate. She continues to say, and I quote, she's a striker, and she doesn't have that wrestling background. At 115, if she was cutting that hard, she would struggle. Tatiana Suarez dominated her on the ground, and that is what I plan to do as well. Depending on how the fight goes, we will see. The plan is to go out there and work for the finish. I don't know if it does surprise me, maybe a little bit. I don't expect to be the underdog, but in my last fight, it didn't look good. But underdog or not, I'm still going out and getting the finish. If Macy Barber does end up finishing Alexa Grasso, should he knows her next fight, And who she plans to call out, it's going to be Johan Calderwood. Barber is still hoping to be the youngest UFC champion and knows if she can get a fight with Calderwood and beat her, she could be fighting for the UFC gold later this year. The plan is to fight Alexa Grasso, then get the win, and we just watched Johan Calderwood versus Jessica Ai. That fight, I want Calderwood because they are two girls I can beat, and they are ranked. Fight Alexa Grasso, fight Johan Calderwood, go for the title shots. Now, that can definitely happen, but will it happen though? I'm not really sure. You're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, and after a short break here, I will be discussing ONE Championships. See you soon.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info. Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. And so I'll be discussing ONE Championship's Unbreakable 3 main events, which is Stamp Fairtex versus Alyona Rassohyna. And Stamp Fairtex, here's very interesting looking at her background because she's only 23 years old. She's only 23 years old, yet she also was the ONE Championship's Unbreakable kickboxing and Muay Thai champion. She was a double belt champion for ONE Championships, and right now she was making her way to getting 3 titles, which is unprecedented, becoming the Atomweight MMA champion. But sadly, Stamp Fairtex, she ended up losing both of her belts. She lost her kickboxing belt, and then she lost her Muay Thai belt. So now, she's trying to recover, she's trying to go and get her career on track, and trying to become the Atomweight Women's MMA champion. But along the way though, Stamp Fairtex, she's only 22 years old, double champion. Along the way, she'll be fighting against 30-year-old Alyona Rassohyna, who is a wrestler. And going to this bout here, by the way, Rassohyna ended up defeating Stamp Fairtex in the second round. But I'm going to be doing a fight companion for this. So once again, all of ONE Championship, all their events, you can watch it on Bleacher Report Live on YouTube. All their events are posted the day after. So right now, I am looking at my screen here. ONE Championship Unbreakable 3, the full event is available on Bleacher Report Live. It was the main events, and I'll be doing a fight companion commentary over it, because watching this fight here, oh my goodness, there's a lot of action that happened in this one fight. And I'll tell you right now, Stamp Fairtex, she definitely is one of those fighters, even though she's right now going through a losing skid, she has so much potential, and all the tools are right there, and if she can put it all together, she will be one of the best female fighters out there in the entire world. But she'll be facing against Alyona Rassohyna here, and Rassohyna, she is a wrestler, a grappler, and typically in strikers versus grapplers, the grapplers typically win. And Fairtex is a 2-time striking champion, while Rassohyna primarily is just training in wrestling and grappling. So you kind of know where this fight is going to end up, or how the result will be. But I recommend you to all watch it with me, as I am currently, once again, this is a ONE Championship Unbreakable 3. Go on Bleacher Report Live on YouTube. I am currently at the 1 hour and 59 minutes, 29-second mark of the fight. Starting off from round 1, I'll be doing a live commentary over the fights. Feel free to have both the video and my voice, circumventing it. But if you just want to hear my voice, I'll try to do my best to go and tell you what is happening here. But I recommend anybody to watch this. I already watched this fight. I recommend people to look at it because it's incredibly good. really impressed by both women. Also, there's a lot of technical stuff that happened in this fight here. There was no way I could write down all the notes as to explain as to what happened here. So right now, I'm at the 1 hour, 59 minute, and 29 second mark of the fights. And I'll do a countdown here from 4. And once the countdown goes to 0, that's when I'm going to go and press the play button. Alright, here we go. Once again, the countdown starts at 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 29 second mark. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, play. And so the fight is just starting here. I was incredibly hyped about this fight here because Sam Fairtex is one of those fighters who, in theory, once again, she puts it all together. She's without a doubt the perfect MMA fighter. Her along with Angela Lee here. But Sam Fairtex, she is currently ranked as the number 5 ranked fighter for the women's atom division. And so the fight is starting off here. So one interesting note about Sam Fairtex is the fact that, yes, everyone can accept the fact that her striking ability is on point. But one thing to know about a lot of strikers is that they have a tendency of being way too comfortable of following certain procedures in striking. Because I've seen a lot of one championship fights in a lot of kickboxers and a lot of Muay Thai fights where their stances and their postures, they are fixated in a certain way. And if they were to fight somebody who is a wrestler or grappler, I don't know how well they would adjust. And so right now, it currently is just a boxing battle between Sam Fairtex and Rassohnya here. But the second Rassohnya gets a takedown onto Sam Fairtex, that will really show, okay, Sam, how good of a grappler are you here? And Rassohnya goes for shoots for a double leg takedown, but then Sam Fairtex goes for an omoplata. Shoots in for omoplata, then she tries to go for a triangle, shoots in back, go to omoplata, reverses Rassohnya down, and now Sam Fairtex is in the half guard position of Rassohnya. Once again, she's a 23-year-old girl doing this, grappling with a world champion wrestler in Rassohnya, and she's able to reverse out position, and she was able to reverse a double leg takedown, get on side control. Now she's on side control now. Now she's throwing out knees from bottom. And one thing to note, oh my goodness, so Sam Fairtex, facing against the wrestler here, is able to go on full mounts. Rassohnya turns around, Stamp gets on backpack position here, and is now trying to cinch in a rear naked choke. Now, one thing to know about Sam Fairtex, when it comes also a lot of strikers who try to become wrestlers, is the fact that they are obviously way more focused on ground and pounding their opponents, more so than controlling them. And Sam Fairtex, she's doing a really good job controlling her opponent here, but she is letting Rassohnya move too much and too often here, that at some point here, Rassohnya will be able to escape out, and it happens here. So Rassohnya is able to get out of mount position, and she herself goes into full guard position onto Sam Fairtex, then immediately transitions into mount that quickly. Rassohnya goes in for an armbar. Sam Fairtex is trying to get out of it though, and she's able to roll over. And so Rassohnya here, she's trying to cinch in the armbar. Sam Fairtex, she's slowly trying to get out of position. But yeah, that's also one issue with Sam Fairtex. I think Fairtex, she knows what to do, along with other strikers who turn to grapplers. They know what should happen. They know what to do. Now it really is a matter of they can keep pace, be consistent, and not panic under the pressure when they do certain moves. Because I've seen it happen. I've seen fighters who immediately get on mounts, and one of the first things you do when you get on mount is that you press all your weight on your opponents. But that's not what Sam Fairtex did. She pressed all around her opponent, and then she immediately starts unloading ground and pound stuff. But because she didn't hook in her legs on the legs of Rassohnya while she was on top, she wasn't able to maintain her position on Rassohnya, and Rassohnya was able to get out. Without doubt, if this is a pure wrestling match, Rassohnya would completely demolish Sam Fairtex. Sam Fairtex, if she would fight against any other wrestler, whether it be Fogats, or even somebody even if she were to wrestle someone like Meng Bo. Meng Bo isn't that good wrestler also, but Meng Bo is such a significantly stronger fighter that if both of them were to cut weight and go in the same weight class, I could see Meng Bo just completely out-wrestling her. I really believe that. So Rassohnya does get a takedown in. She's currently at full guard position. Sam Fairtex, she is going for another omoplata. She's going for omoplata here. She can't really get anything down here. Rassohnya immediately gets onto mount position, but then gets out of it, tries to go for an armbar. Rassohnya is being way too reckless in her grappling. And I believe, here's the thing, people dislike Karol Rosa in the way how she fights, because she's too often of a control fighter than she is a finisher. But there's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't. Now, is it exciting? Is it interesting to watch grapplers just press all the way onto their opponents? And it's like 5 minutes of them just holding down their opponents? Yeah, it can get really boring. But better do that than being overly reckless, like what Rassohnya did in this fight, where she went for an armbar when she had perfect position on mounts. There was no reason for her to do that. And consider that, by the way, once again, this is Stan Fairtex's first time ever fighting in a professional setting against a grappler. And Stan Fairtex, she's not used to this stuff. So it makes sense. She was definitely going to exert all her energy in the grappling when she's put in that position. And I think it would be a great strategy for Rassohnya if she just pressed all her weight and went around the cardio. And then the bell sounds over there. So the bell sounds, and first round, I have to go for... Honestly, I kind of have to go for Stan Fairtex winning this first round. Yes, I was hypercritical of Stan Fairtex in this bout here, but Rassohnya, she really didn't do much other than attempt submission holds, and she did very little to no damage on Fairtex. Now, I believe there's momentum carrying over from this round to the next round with Rassohnya, which is how she ended up winning the bout. But Stan Fairtex, she landed some really good forearms and elbow smashes. Without a doubt, Stan Fairtex, her striking ability is without a doubt much more better than Rassohnya. And Stan Fairtex, technically in terms of ground control time, had more time than Rassohnya. So technically, she won both in the striking and the grappling exchanges. So congratulations there for Stan Fairtex. But at this point here, Rassohnya, she pretty much knows, okay, yes, she's taking me down. Yes, she's reversing out. But I know I can get to my position a lot more easily than she can. Also with Rassohnya, she can easily jump into mount position so much more quicker than Stamp. Because for Stamp, she has to go get the takedown in, or she has to slowly transition from the typical full guard to half guard to side control onto mount, compared to Rassohnya, who can go from full guard position and then go straight forward towards mount position. So both fighters right now, Rassohnya and Stan Fairtex, they're just both poking shots at each other. The pace of the fight has significantly slowed down here. Fairtex, they try clinching, and then Fairtex just backs off, goes in for a 4-punch combination. I think we're seeing right now, she should shoot in for a takedown. What a lot of more fighters should do if they try to be like grapplers second, strikers first, or no, if they try to be grapplers first, strikers second, they should try to feint in with a jab and then duck down for a double leg. That's something that's a very high probability of working. And it especially works for fighters who are not used to fighting against grapplers. So right now, Rassohnya, she's now just being picked apart here by Stan Fairtex. She's trying to go find a way to go and get a clean takedown in. I believe Rassohnya, once again, going for a feint and shooting for a double leg. So there were openings there. Rassohnya threw out a leg kick, which led to Stan Fairtex throwing herself her own leg kick. Fairtex is very tight right now. She's very tight. She's being very defensive. Every time she's leaning in for a jab, she's always taking 2 steps back. Fairtex with a good body kick over there. And Rassohnya shoots in for Rassohnya shoots in for a takedown, and then Stan Fairtex hits her with a knee to the face. Yikes. I say Rassohnya wasn't overcommitted in that. She kind of gave up halfway in the double leg takedown. Also, when it comes to fighting, also for wrestlers fighting against strikers, you do have to accept the fact that you will definitely be clipped fighting against these people, and you just have to accept it. That's one reason why I love Khabib, or even Karol Esparza at times, like earlier in her career, where she's like, where both Khabib and Karol Esparza like, okay, I know I'm gonna get hurt here, but no matter what happens, I'm gonna control you. I'd rather control you for 4 minutes than like just poke you and hope that I can go take you down later down the line. So Rassohnya, she's now overcommitting herself in the takedown here. She does not care about getting clipped in the face, which she did twice in that takedown. She does get a takedown in, and then Stan Fairtex in. Oh snap! Rassohnya falls down after two forearm strikes from Stan Fairtex. Fairtex is now on the back of Rassohnya, trying to go and cinch in a rear naked choke. So Fairtex, she's right now fighting the hands of Rassohnya here. With the way how they're positioned right now, it doesn't look like Stan Fairtex has enough room. Oh, no, never mind. She gave up on the backpack position. Now goes towards full mount position onto Rassohnya, throwing in some hammer fists. Good job by Stan Fairtex. She's actually putting all her weight down on Rassohnya here. She's putting all her weight down. She's a lot more calm. She's a lot more patient. She's not doing what she did in the first round, where she was overly reliant on the ground and pounding and just doing as much damage as she can, which led to Fairtex getting control. Oh, snap. Rassohnya uses the cage to get out. She uses the cage to get out. Fairtex gets a takedown in on the grappler. And so now Stan Fairtex, she's being overly aggressive here with her striking, which led to a possible armbar there by Rassohnya. Stan Fairtex, she gets up. She saw that there were openings there to which Rassohnya could have easily got submission hold in from bottom position. So Fairtex, she's going to play it safe here. Both fighters are meeting each other in the middle of the cage. So what Rassohnya is doing here, she's purposely putting her arms down. She's baiting in Stan Fairtex. And this really is a case of, is Rassohnya fast enough to react to the jab or to the strike of Fairtex and then duck under and get a successful takedown in? But right now, Stan Fairtex, she's a wee bit faster. She's a wee bit faster than Rassohnya. Fairtex is winning all the striking exchanges here with these vicious... Fairtex, she normally throws out forearms and elbows. That's her default jabs. Alright, okay. So Rassohnya, she drops down, trying to bait in Fairtex, but it wasn't able to work. And so we were at the final 10 seconds. We're at the second round. Rassohnya throws out a body kick, and then that's the end of the second round. Stan Fairtex has won 2 rounds in that bout. She won 2 rounds, and they're showing highlights and replays this, where Fairtex just threw out a vicious 3-punch combination, first throwing in a vicious forearm, then 2 straight jabs. And so after that short commercial break, I'll be going towards the third round, which will decide the bout here. Stan Fairtex up by 2 rounds. Let's see what happens right here at the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA, to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we're back looking at the main event of the third round for Stan Fairtex versus Alyona Rassohyna. So I'm currently at the 2 hour, 11 minute, and 40 second mark of the fight. I'm going to do a countdown here. You can follow along with me once again at Bleacher Report Live, One Championship Unbreakable 3 on YouTube. So as of right now, Stan Fairtex has won 2 rounds in a row. Can she keep up the consistency here? Because really, Rassohnya, she only needs 1 submission in order to pull off the victory here. And as of right now, yes, Fairtex is landing quite a few good shots onto Rassohnya. But Rassohnya, man, she's eating all these shots, and I just don't see a knockout coming this way. So I'm going to press play right now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. I'm pressing play, and we are at the third round of this main event fight here. So Rassohnya now, I do believe that going to this round, she really should be a lot more aggressive in her takedowns. Because literally how this fight is going on right now, with Stan Fairtex constantly reversing out of all the grappling, and her just winning straight up in striking exchanges here, Rassohnya has to try and do something aggressive in this bout here. try to be more risky. Go for an armbar yet again, because it's obvious that Sam Fairtex is not comfortable being on the ground. Or heck, Sam Fairtex, she's not even that comfortable being on top position of Rassohnya, especially at the full guard position. So right now, both fighters, they're trying to gauge each other out right now. It's obvious that Fairtex here is winning in both fighting outside and inside the pocket, but Fairtex here, she's being a lot more passive. I think Sam Fairtex, I think she recognizes, okay, Rassohnya here, she's gonna go for a takedown. I know it. And I'm up by 2 rounds. Even though the one championship point system is not going by a round per round basis, you still want to play safe. You kind of do. So right now, both fighters are still trying to gauge distance with one another, which is weird because we're at the 3rd round at this point here. Rassohnya is waiting for a counter-strike to come in so she can go shoot him for a takedown. Sam Fairtex knows that he wants to go for a takedown, so she's not going to try to bait in. So we might see some inactivity coming in from both fighters, which is in favor of Fairtex because she knows that she's winning this bout. So both of them right now are taunting one another. And oh my goodness, Rassohnya with 2 clean left hook strikes on Sam Fairtex. A leg kick there. If Fairtex really wants to ease in and get like a quick win here, a quick win while playing safe, she just go throw out leg kicks. And if Rassohnya does go for a takedown, she's for a takedown after a leg kick, she can go throw up a knee. And Fairtex here, she's actually pulling, her stance right now is the Muay Thai. She's fighting the full-on Muay Thai stance with her leg bouncing about. If Rassohnya could if she herself could throw out some leg kicks actually, it'd be great. Throw in some leg kicks, try to beat Sam Fairtex with her trying to check it, which will lead to Rassohnya going for a takedown. At the highest level of mixed martial arts, which is something like I love like Angela Lee for that, because Angela Lee, I think she really has perfected the whole idea of like grappler, secondary striker type of fighter for the Atomweight division. But no, though. So Angela Lee, actually, she's not fighting. Is Angela Lee fighting the Atomweight division? No, it's Zhang Jinan. She's the current Atomweight champion right now for One Championships, and we could see Angela Lee once again try for it again. Try to be the Atomweight champion. Because those two can go have another trilogy fight yet again. So both fighters now are still engaging with one another. Sam Fairtex is obviously playing it safe at this point here. She doesn't want to be overly aggressive. She wants to go and just like play it safe. She knows there's going to be takedown in, and she knows that Rassohnya only needs a couple seconds. Just a couple seconds, and then she can go and get a submission in, whether it be an arm bar or a triangle choke. Rassohnya does something very interesting, actually. She goes for a low right leg kick to a high punch, like simultaneously. Which is something you only see like in video games or in the kung fu fights, but you never see actually done in IRL. So we have 1 minute and 15 seconds left of this bout here. Sam Fairtex, she's being very stationary. She is not following or tracking Rassohnya. Rassohnya shoots in for a double leg takedown. Gets a double leg takedown. And I think Sam Fairtex was thinking of trying to go for a triangle choke from bottom position, then gave up on it. And now if Sam Fairtex plays this right, all she really should do here is just hold on to Rassohnya for the rest of this fight. Grab onto the back of the neck of Rassohnya. Hold onto the arms and make sure she doesn't do anything or pull off submission here. So, Rassohnya is fighting an incredibly chaotic pace here. She wants to go move towards half guard. She's holding to... No, Fairtex really should... Okay, so Fairtex, she's trying to lay some punches from bottom position, which I don't think she should really go for here. Rassohnya is defeating her right now. She's beating her out in terms of the ground and pound. Sam Fairtex is able to get up. Oh no, but she gets caught by Rassohnya for the guillotine choke from bottom position. Is Fairtex out of this? And Fairtex taps out in the final 30 seconds of the bout. Fairtex is visibly upset even though she did tap out. But wow, that was a complete choke job there by Sam Fairtex. She says that she's not out, but no, she tapped out from that. So, a disappointing loss there by Sam Fairtex. She was 30 seconds away from winning that bout. 30 seconds away from competing with yet again another top 5 competitor in the Atomweight division, because Sam Fairtex, she's currently ranked at number 5. She's currently ranked at number 5. She lost to an unranked competitor. And so what's going on with Fairtex here? Because the narrative going into this fight was Sam Fairtex, she wants to go and claim all 3 titles. She lost her past 2 titles. So I think, I'm looking at the replay here, I think Fairtex was maybe trying to go grab the left arm. No, with her left arm, she tried to grab the right arm of Rassohnya. And then I'm looking at this right now, and that's an obvious tap out there. Rassohnya leans all of her body weight onto the side of Fairtex. Fairtex taps out. Fairtex gets up, is immediately complaining with the referee. Amazing comeback finish there by Rassohnya. Sam Fairtex, she did awesome. Here's the thing. Once again, Fairtex, she's only 23 years old. She's only 23 years old, and the fact that she did as good as she did in her first MMA bout and won championships is amazing. And Fairtex here in the announcement, she looks incredibly salty. She's salty, and Rassohnya is pretty much crying as she's being announced as the winner here. Fairtex is shaking her head. And yeah, that's the end of the bout there between Sam Fairtex and Alyona Rassohyna. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, I understand why Fairtex is upset about this. Because she fought a near-perfect fight there, to be honest with you. Going to that third round, she was fighting safe. She was fighting safe in the third round. She didn't do anything recklessly. She was baiting in Rassohnya to go shoot for takedown because she knew when the takedown came in, she would be able to stuff it. The issue, though, was the fact that I believe that what Fairtex should have done, she should have gone and grabbed the back of the neck of Rassohnya and kept her down and forced her to compete in the full guard position. What Fairtex did in that final 30 seconds was she was overwhelmed by the ground and pound of Rassohnya. She couldn't grab onto the arms or to the shoulders, because usually what you do when you're in bottom position, if you want to keep your opponent down, and this is what happens here. Sam Fairtex, 23 years old, Muay Thai fighter, kickboxer, trying to learn mixed martial arts, trying to be an all-around fighter, trying to learn how to be a grappler, a wrestler, towards somebody who's got over a decade experience of her in the wrestling category. Of course, Fairtex would make some mistakes here, and one big mistake she did was, I think, if she had a little bit more jiu-jitsu training, because there was enough room between the torso of Rassohnya and the lower body of Fairtex. Fairtex could have gone to a butterfly position. She could have gone to butterfly position and then hold on and then crank the neck of Rassohnya, keep her down for 30 more seconds. She was only a couple seconds away from winning that bout. And now, we don't know what the future is for Fairtex here, because we also have to remember this. There is going to be a one championship Atomweight Grand Prix tournament. There's going to be a Grand Prix tournament of all the best fighters in the Atomweight division, and we don't know who officially will be in that, because I still remember this. There was B. Nguyen. So B. Nguyen, she was announced to be competitor at the Atomweight Grand Prix tournaments, and then she had to go fight somebody else. She ended up losing her match. So now, this is coming from the commentary team with Ms. Chilson and Marcus Fellow. They say that B. Nguyen is out of the tournament. That she's out of it. And then we also have Mang Bo, who's also a name who's thrown out there who could possibly compete in this tournament. So what's next for Sam Fairtex? Will Sam Fairtex get an automatic buy-in because of the fact that she's a double champion, a former double champion? What's going on with Rassohnya? She defeated a former double champion. She defeated the number 5th ranked fighter in the Atomweight division. Then logically she should be next. She should automatically get a buy-in for the tournament. There's a lot of moving pieces going on right now. Sam Fairtex had an incredibly impressive performance. 23 years old, little to no wrestling training, is able to reverse out, do some technical wrestling with one of the best grapplers in one championship in the Atomweight division. She was able to reverse out, was able to avoid multiple submission attempts. She was able to get out of arm bars, single leg key logs, multiple triangle chokes. In the first round, most beginning level fighters who are not adept in wrestling would completely just immediately give up and working, grabbing the arms, and finding the hands when a fighter is trying to go for a rear naked choke on them. Fairtex was in a bad position where she should have been choked out, but it didn't happen for her. Problem, though, was instead of Fairtex holding on to Rassohnya and grabbing her and holding her down in the full guard position, Fairtex tried to get out, which, if I was the corner of Fairtex, I would have yelled at her immediately across the cage. I'd be like, don't get out. Stop being overwhelmed. Stay calm, because she's not calm. Because there was, in the beginning phase of, in the first half of the grappling exchange that happened near the tail end of the third round here, when Rassohnya got the takedown in, Fairtex, she did a good job defending herself. She was holding onto the body, the upper torso of Rassohnya. Her full body was extended out, and so she was very comfortable in fighting in the ground. She was comfortable fighting the ground, and Rassohnya is trying to go to side control as quick as she can here. Trying to go side control, failing. She tried to leap up and go towards full mount position, which she did back in the first round, but Fairtex stopped it. So Fairtex is successfully stopping the transitions of Rassohnya here. It just turned to Rassohnya when she became desperate and was like, okay, enough with me. There's no way I can get to full mount position. There's no way I can get to side control. There's no way I can transition myself to a submission. Okay, I'm just gonna go guns blazing, destroying my arms out there, throwing in some ground and pound action for the last 30 seconds. And if Rassohnya just purely did ground and pound action in that final 30 seconds, Fairtex still would have won. Fairtex still would have won that bout. Yes, one championship. They decide their fights not in a per round basis, but due to fight totality. But I've seen one championship bouts where the judges score the fighters who win to be the fighters who won in a round per round basis. Even the commentary team are talking about it, where they say typically fighters who win these fights are the ones who win by a round per round basis when it comes to decisions. So Fairtex, she was overwhelmed by the ground and pound. Not only that, Fairtex did that thing that many strikers who are trying to defend themselves in the bottom position do, where they try to strike from bottom. And you know what? It sometimes works. In Michael Bisping vs. GSP, Bisping did an awesome job defending himself with the forearms and elbows from bottom position. It works sometimes. But in this scenario here, with only a couple seconds away from winning the bout, a couple seconds away from potentially fighting another ranked opponent, and then possibly having a matchup against Angela Lee for the atomweight belt, or a part of the Grand Prix tournament, Fairtex was too impatient. She was overwhelmed by the ground pounding. She was overwhelmed by emotion of Rassohnya. And I understand why she's upset, but she shouldn't be upset at the referee. She shouldn't be. She allowed herself to be rolled over. Rassohnya found the opening because no longer was Fairtex guarding the transitions. She was now full on trying to do elbows and punches from bottom position. She wasn't focused on blocking the transitions and positional movements of Rassohnya. A lot of mistakes were made in that bout. Alyona Rassohyna should have lost that bout, but she ended up winning. Stamp Fairtex, this should have been her moment to really stake her claim as being a legitimate MMA fighter in the atomweight division, instead of just being a Muay Thai fighter or a kickboxer coming to the division. Sadly, things didn't go well for Fairtex, but you know what? But as a newcomer going to MMA, she did really well for herself, and she should be proud of how well she did considering her lack of experience. You're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, going over a couple other fights that happened this past weekend as I return from a commercial break. See you soon.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. And so this past weekend was UFC Fight Night events, which is Overeem versus Alexander Volkov being the main event. But if you look down the prelims, we also had Molly McCann versus Lara Procopio, along with Karol Rosa versus Joselyne Edwards. And so I'll review those two fights very quickly. And if you got time, then do a news brief. But Karol Rosa versus Joselyne Edwards. Oh my goodness. Karol Rosa, this girl is scary. Oh my goodness. When I say she's scary, I'm saying that she looks like somebody who you absolutely don't want to mess with. And that's something that I don't really say often for some fighters. It was in the second round when Joselyne Edwards landed a right hook, then a left overhand onto the mouth of Karol Rosa, or to the chin area. And it turns out Karol Rosa was bleeding from inside her mouth. And there's this insane moment where it kind of is like one of those horror movies where Karol Rosa, she's just blood coming out of her mouth, and then she dives right at Joselyne Edwards, goes in for a spine buster, lifts her up in the air. It's not even a normal takedown. She lifts Joselyne Edwards up in the air, throws her onto the ground as if she's Dave Bautista with the spine buster. Her mouth is bleeding, and then she ends up going on mount position. She's on mount position on top of Joselyne Edwards, and in the middle of her throwing up these forearms and elbow strikes from top position, she looks over to her right side, and she spits her blood, across the cage. And Dominic Cruz and Daniel Cormier was like, oh my goodness, that's one of the most coolest and most badass things I've ever seen. And that's what Karol Rosa did here. She's beating on Joselyne Edwards. Then she, gets up, and then looks over to her right, and she spits blood. And then there are these exchanges between these two fighters where Joselyne Edwards punches Karol Rosa in the face, because in the third round, Edwards does get a little more aggressive. And then Rosa, she takes the punch in the face, eats it, then spits blood out, blitzes in, and goes for another takedown, or they go through these 50-50 exchanges. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so cool what I'm seeing with Karol Rosa here. So this competition is in the bantamweight division. And what Karol Rosa did in this fight here against Joselyne Edwards, it was a really good showcase here. It was a strong showcase of her all-around MMA abilities. Because Karol Rosa, in interviews leading up to this fight, she says, you know what? Yes, I'm a grappler, but I can definitely strike. And I say this right now. Karol Rosa won the majority of the striking exchanges here. Yes, her mouth got battered up by Joselyne Edwards. And if you look at the face of Rosa versus the face of Edwards, you could be like, some random stranger out there could be like, oh my goodness, Rosa, she got murked completely in the face. No. Rosa was the one who was winning the majority of exchanges here. And what I like about Karol Rosa is the fact that although she is a superb grappler, she is absolutely not afraid to do level changes in the middle of doing 50-50 exchanges. I love it. Because for most grapplers, they go for, a feint, duck down, level change, takedown. What Karol Rosa is doing is that she's going to go and she makes it look like she's trying to knock you out. Swinging her arms. She's leaving herself open for these strikes, and she gets cracked in the face several times by Joselyne Edwards that look like if it was any other woman or any other person on earth, they would get knocked out. But no, Karol Rosa, kind of like Khabib, has no fear of being clipped, has no fear of being hurt by any of the strikes by Edwards. Just takes it, eats it, does a couple strikes of her own, then it goes for takedowns. And to pretty much summarize this fight over the 3 rounds, Karol Rosa, she ends up winning the fight after 3 rounds of action by unanimous decision. She won every single round. First round was her taking down Justine Edwards. It was pretty much 5 minutes of Karol Rosa wrestling Edwards. And then it was 2 minutes of them striking. Rosa doing well for herself in striking. And then the second half of the second round was them wrestling, with Rosa being on top. And it pretty much is the exact same thing in the third round. But huge respect for Karol Rosa there. Joselyne Edwards, there was one thing I can change about the way how she fought. To be honest with you, Joselyne Edwards, she just was outmatched by somebody who was better than her all around. Because Karol Rosa was winning in the clinching. Karol Rosa, she is fighting in bantamweight, but if you told me that she was a featherweight, I could definitely believe it. Joselyne Edwards looks like that she should be competing at the flyweight division, but this is at bantamweight. So Karol Rosa, she had the size advantage. She was a lot more skilled onto the ground. She was a lot more stronger. And in the striking exchanges here, usually for someone like Joselyne Edwards, who in most of her fights, she's 10-2, she always wins in the striking. She always does. And so when she's in a position where someone like Karol Rosa, who is being extra aggressive on her, fighting incredibly chaotic, always shooting for takedowns, and she's not shooting for takedowns, she's just throwing a high volume of strikes, Karol Rosa had very little defense. Justine Edwards was able to pick apart Karol Rosa's defense pretty easily, But the overwhelming offense coming in from Karol Rosa is so much that Joselyne Edwards ended up being overwhelmed by it. So if she's not being taken down and getting ground pounded, she's being wrecked in the face by the strikes of Karol Rosa, these hard, stiff shots, and Rosa's always diving in head first, which is very different from all of Joselyne Edwards' matchups, because usually it's Joselyne Edwards chasing after her opponent. In this scenario here, it's Rosa chasing after Edwards. So Edwards was overwhelmed by this. She was outmatched. She didn't win in any facet of the fight game here. Edwards, she did well for herself in the striking. There are moments where I'm like, oh my goodness, Edwards, wow, you're landing in some of these good clean strikes here. But then I see Rosa, where she herself lands a couple good strikes, and then goes for a takedown, and I'm like, oh my goodness, wow. One thing I would say about Joselyne Edwards is that she really does need to utilize more leg kicks. That's what I believe. Because Karol Rosa here, she did a two-punch combination and off on a leg kick, where she goes for a left jab, right overhand, then towards a right leg kick. She kept doing that over and over again, compared to Joselyne Edwards, who fought pretty much like a boxer. This is an MMA competition, and she fought pretty much exactly like a boxer in terms of her stance, in terms of her stances, kind of like McGregor Dustin Poirier, where Joselyne Edwards, her leg was being banged up over and over again by these leg kicks, which really didn't turn out well for Edwards as the fight continued on, as she was being more and more overwhelmed by Rosa's chaotic, high-paced action. So once again, that is a great performance by Karol Rosa, and I expect big things coming off her, because here's the thing, both of them are in their mid-20s. They're only in their mid-20s. I expect big things coming from these two. Joselyne Edwards, she's definitely really green in terms of developing that a strong all-around MMA game, but Karol Rosa, she's pretty much there. She can throw out leg kicks, she can throw out body kicks, she's perfectly comfortable going out there and doing these 50-50 very, very risky exchanges. She can go out there and wrestle and grapple. Though, I will say, Rosa's grappling in the first round was very shaky, because there was an instance where Rosa was in mount position, and then Joselyne Edwards was able to get out of it, and then switch over and then get on the guard of Rosa. So Rosa does need to work on that, but all in all though, for these two prospects, Karol Rosa did awesome for herself, and I expect big things coming from her. The fight afterwards was Molly McCann versus Lara Procopio, and in the bout, it was essentially Procopio controlling Molly McCann. It was essentially a battle between two grapplers going at it, and the pace of this fight pretty much changed and shifted immediately within the first minutes of the fight, because Molly McCann, she's all hyped, she blitzes in, and kind of was winning the first minutes of the first round, with McCann going full on aggro, being ultra aggressive, and then Procopio started wrestling with her. She gets a couple takedowns in, doing some clinch work, and essentially this really was very similar to Karol Rosa versus Joselyne Edwards, where we had this one fighter, in this case here Procopio, just grappling with Molly McCann and keeping her onto the ground. There was one instance to which it looked like Molly McCann could have slowed away to victory, and it was in the second round. In the second round, Molly McCann was going for an armbar, and it looked done. Actually, there are two instances. There are two instances to which it looked like McCann could have won with an armbar. First instance was Lara Procopio, she's on top of Molly McCann. She then gets an armbar in, and then Procopio lifts her up and then slams her onto the ground. And the second instance was when Molly McCann, she was in the bottom position, Lara Procopio, she's on mount, and then McCann is able to go reverse out of the mount position and is able to pull out an armbar, and then the armbar was cinched in. It was tight. Like, even Dominic Cruz says, oh my goodness, she's got the armbar, she should tap out. But guess what? She didn't tap out. Instead, she then pushes herself off the cage, Procopio does. She pushes herself off to the cage, which then turns around Molly McCann, and then clinches with her, and then goes in for a single leg trip. So Procopio, she was able to utilize her surroundings, her area, and was able to grapple with McMahon. Lara Procopio's grappling and ground control pretty much won her the round for all 3 rounds of action, which led to Lara Procopio winning the fight via unanimous decision. And once again, this was a case of Molly McCann. She was doing her best to out-grapple with Lara Procopio, but she was just a better jiu-jitsu artist than her. And also in the striking, well, the striking, it was complete head or tails there. They're both, I say, equal in terms of striking. Neither woman really won out in any of the exchanges consistently. So this really turned to a wrestling match, to a grappling match. Lara Procopio was the better jiu-jitsu specialist, so she ended up defeating Molly McCann. Good on for that. So good on for Karol Rosa and Lara Procopio for showcasing their grappling and their jiu-jitsu game. So with that being said, that rounds about all the women's fights that happened this past weekend. So let's move on to the news brief portion of the podcast. So it is coming in from MMAJunkie.usatoday.com. Headline, Tisa Torres explains changes that led to her recent career resurgence. It is coming in from Danny Segura. Tisa Torres has given the MMA world a completely different look in her most recent performances, and it hasn't come by coincidence. Currently is on a 2-fight winning streak. She looked much more impressive in her past two performances. She's 11-5 in her MMA career, 7-5 in her UFC career, scored a stoppage against Sam Hughes in her most recent fight in December, and dominated former Invicta FC champion Brianna Vimran in a unanimous decision win earlier in 2020. In a recent interview she did, which was translated in Spanish, she's going to say, I think the change was in my mentality. I had issues before with believing in me, and now I feel like I can do anything I want. I feel like one day I'll be champion at strawweight. I did have 4 defeats against Weili Zhang, Marina Rodriguez, Ioana Jędrzejczyk, and Jessica Andrade, and the 4 of them are some of the very best in the UFC. I feel like I'm the only strawweight who's fought against all the champions. I fought Carla Esparza, Ioana, Weili, Jessica, and Rose Namajunas. Torres is a veteran in women's MMA and has been testing her skills against the very best for some time. She admitted it was tough dealing with the string of defeats and said it put her in a bad place in her career. She goes on to say, and I quote, during that time, I had a depression and I had no motivation to continue forward. I did want to retire, but I did want to take time off from fighting. I didn't want to go on training, and I didn't want to hear anything about the UFC. I did know that I needed to change my mentality, and at that time, I was talking to a counselor who was helping me. And after that, I feel like my mentality has changed. Now I feel great. I have 2 wins, and I think one day we'll have a Barika world champion in the UFC. Torres said she's in full swing and is motivated more so than ever. She was scheduled to fight against Angela Hill in a rematch at UFC 256 in December, but Hill tested positive for COVID-19. Instead, Torres ended up fighting Sam Hughes, to which she won. Torres then goes on to say, I like to fight as soon as possible, and I like to fight against somebody that's above me in the rankings. I like to fight somebody like Carla Esparza, Michelle Waterson, Claudia Cadella, Yan Xiaonan. I was talking to the matchmaker, and I was told many of the top girls can't fight. They have fights booked. So I might fight Angela Hill again. If not, I might have to wait until May or June to get someone that's above me in the rankings. If not, I would like to fight anybody that's not above me. And I say right now, Claudia Cadella is perfect for you, Tisa Torres. She is the perfect person because she is ranked right now number 7 in the UFC Strawweight rankings. She's ranked number 7. She's going off 2 losses. Her recent performance against Yan Xiaonan was very questionable. And so it's hard to imagine Claudia Cadella compete amongst the top 10 again, and she'll probably compete against somebody who's outside the top 10. So I do agree with Tisa Torres' statement here in that she should compete against somebody who is kind of a veteran within the top 10, like Esparza, Waterson, Claudia Cadella. Those 3 women can all fight against Tisa Torres. I do know that Michelle Waterson, she did say that she's going to be taking a break from MMA for a while. Carla Esparza, I think she's too high in the rankings for Tisa Torres. If you asked me a couple months ago if you could see Tisa Torres versus Carla Esparza, that was a real possibility. But now, Carla Esparza, she could be fighting for the title, maybe, or she's like right there in the line, in front of the line to compete against Weili Zhang. So I say right now, if it's not going to be Michelle Waterson, not Carla Esparza, I think Yan Xiaonan is too high for her. I say Claudia Cadella is the perfect matchup for Tisa Torres, and it's really needed. It's a battle between 2 veterans, 2 journeyman fighters in women's mixed martial arts, and they're both right now not in the very best place in their careers right now. Claudia Cadella coming off losses, Tisa Torres making a big comeback here, so both of them are in desperate need for a long winning streak, a long 4 or 5 winning streak, and then maybe, just maybe, 2 years from now, they might be in the top 5 and compete for the title. So that being said, as a quick reminder, this upcoming weekend is UFC 258. Macy Barber will face against Alexa Grasso in the co-main event for that show, and I expect a star-making performance from either of those 2 women. And following that, we also have announcements coming in from Bellator MMA. What's going to happen? Who's Chris Cyber going to fight next? What can we expect from women's mixed martial arts for Bellator in the year 2021? All that will be announced next week. And so with that being said, all I gotta say is thank you. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask you, please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Women's Mixed Martial Arts Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.